Hello record people and music lovers. You know, it's summer here in Sweden and it's almost midsummer. And for us, that means we have to leave the city, go out in the countryside, we have to put flowers in our hair, we have to dance around the giant pole, we have to stay awake all night and do some questionable things out in the Swedish countryside. So today I thought we should celebrate the Swedish midsummer through vinyl and like a little soundtrack to this fine tradition here in Sweden. So I have picked out 6 records from my collection that goes through different part of the whole Swedish midsummer trip. Like going out in the nature, some pagan traditions, dancing, staying awake all night, and maybe just some occasional sacrifice in the mix. So, it's time for you to keep your appointment with the Swedish midsummer. Yes, so first we need to leave the city. I mean, for us here in Sweden, it's impossible to celebrate midsummer in the city. We have to have the forests, the lakes, the flower meadows, out in the nature on those long summer nights. And the soundtrack for the trip from the city out in the country will be Dungen, with their second album just called 2 from 2002. And Dungen is of course a pretty famous Swedish band that played some kind of acid rock or psychedelic rock that became quite popular in America and all around the world. I mean, they sing in Swedish, but still their kind of fussed out sound became really popular all around the world. But on this LP, they were more into like some Swedish folk tunes, some early progressive and some psychedelic rock, but not as much acid rock as they played later on. And I really love this LP. It's full of great songs, and all the songs are about leaving the city and going out in the country. It's a very like rural vibe, like walking around barefoot out in the nature. So it very much romanticizes around this whole rural thing. And so this is the perfect soundtrack for leaving the city. And this is the Swedish original that came out on Subliminal Sound in 2002, this gatefold cover. And here this is like a perfect picture for a midsummer day here in Sweden. The light, out in the country with the bike. The labels, they look like this. And I think this first Swedish press only came in like 500 copies or so. So it's pretty rare to find this one. And I have a really nice copy here. And I have picked the song called Solen stiger upp, which translates as The Sun Rises. And that is the perfect song for our trip out in the countryside. Dungen. So, now we have arrived out in the countryside. And one of the most important rituals of Swedish midsummer is dancing around the Maypole. And I mean, to non-Swedish people, this might look a little strange. You know, grown-up people dancing around the giant pole, pretending they are frogs or something. But let me tell you, this is completely normal, I think. Anyway, the song I have chosen for this is the single Dance Around the Maypole by a band called Acid Gallery that came out on CBS in 1969. And this song was made for this episode actually. This is the labels. And this is a real nice like psychedelic pop nugget. And it was written and produced by Roy Wood from The Move, but Acid Gallery was another band, I think. But it sounds exactly like The Move. You know, they're really hooky psychedelic pop songs that they released in the late 60s. So if you like The Move, you should definitely check out Acid Gallery with Dance Around the Maypole.
I like your boys, a Caroline to Jane. You must know why, for it's the 1st of May. Let's go dancing on the green. Fair girls 1 to 17. Dance round the maypole, dance round the maypole. Over the green field, down to the hay. Lift up your hearts and dance round the maypole. Run to your true love.
Of course, Midsummer is not only about dancing. The Swedish Midsummer traditions goes way back, all the way back to the Vikings or to the pagan days, where they were like celebrating nature and the sun, and they were sacrificing to get better crops. So I thought we should add some sacrifices to this mix. And for that I have chosen an album by a girl called Raun MacKinnon, and the album is called Raun Is Her Name. This one was released on Kapp Records in 1968 on these labels. This is a pretty solid singer-songwriter folk album, but there's one track that stands out for me here, and it's a song called Sacrifice of the Goat on the A side. Let's see up here. Sacrifice of the Goat. I mean, that sounds like a heavy metal title from a black metal album or from a Black Sabbath album or so. And this is an instrumental song with her wonderful guitar picking. She was a brilliant guitar player, by the way, playing the acoustic guitar. You can see her sitting there playing. So she could really play the like finger picking style. And this is a great song, and this is really fitting for our pagan midsummer celebration. So here we go with Raun MacKinnon. Yes, speaking of sacrifice, we're going to go into some more darker territories when it comes to sacrifices. And of course, when it comes to Midsummer, I have to show the soundtrack to the film Wicker Man from 1973. This was originally recorded in 1973, but this issue came out in 2002, I think. Yes, on Silva screen. And it was the first time the soundtrack came out from the original recording tapes. And I mean, if you haven't seen the film, it's about a police officer that goes out to a remote Scottish island to investigate the disappearance of a girl. And all the islanders there, they are very friendly at first, but there's something really wrong with this community. And yeah, you can just imagine what happens at the end. This is a really big favorite of mine, and I have shown this before, and I've talked a lot about Wicker Man. And I love the music. And I mean, the music has become more famous than the film almost. It's a brilliant soundtrack with this like dark pagan folk, sometimes really jolly folk songs, but it also has this haunting vibe. And if you're interested in this Swedish Midsummer and also interested in horror films, I could really recommend a film called Midsommar or Midsummer. It's basically like a Wicker Man type film, but instead of someone going out to a remote Scottish island, there are some American students that are being invited to Sweden to join a traditional Swedish Midsummer celebration, and that turns out to be really horrific and Wicker Man-ish type of thing that happened. So definitely check out Midsummer if you like that. So let's just say that around this time of the Midsummer celebration, you have to start to paying attention what's going on around the bonfire. Let's listen to a song from the Wicker Man. Yes, let's lighten the mood up a little bit after all these sacrifices. Because Midsummer is all about celebrating summer and the sun and the light. And of course we have to have that in this mix. And I have picked out a record by the Swedish girl called Turid, who released this LP called Bilder, Images, from 1973. And I mean, this is very Swedish Midsummer, getting undressed and sitting out in the nature. Beautiful artwork here on the back. And this was of course released on Silence Records, the famous progressive label here from Sweden. And Turid is a Swedish singer-songwriter, folky, often compared to like Joni Mitchell. And actually there's a Joni Mitchell song here, I Had a King, that she translated into Swedish. Everything is sung here in Swedish. But she had a great sound, especially on this LP and on her first LP. She's often thought of as like a Swedish acid folk type singer. It's not much of the acid, but beautiful arrangements played by the Swedish band Kebnekaise. So she had a great backing band to play on this LP. You can see here on the back, we got people from Kebnekaise and the Swedish like progressive underground countercultural elite. And like many Silence releases, it came with a lyric sheet, little booklet here. And not only that, you can see she added the chords so you can play along with the guitar here. Beautiful Silence labels here. And she has one song here called Och sommaren kom, and the summer came. And that captured the Swedish summer mood really well, backed by Kebnekaise. And that will be our song for being out in the summer here in Sweden.
Höst eller vår, år efter år i samma mönsters spår, men du står ej kvar i det som var du igår. La, 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 la,
Yes, that was Turid. And we have now arrived at the end of the Midsummer celebration, the long nights or the short nights, depending on how you see it. I mean, the sun sets almost around midnight here, and it never gets really dark at night. And for this, I have chosen a really classic Swedish folk rock LP by Kebnekaise. You know, the band that was playing on Turid's LP that I just showed. And look at this beautiful artwork. And actually there's some dude down there chilling. Not really sure what that is all about. And yes, they are sitting out in a tree here. Very Swedish midsummery vibes there. This album is filled with like electric folk rock. They took like old Swedish folk songs and they play them with this like psychedelic electric rock setting. And this is an absolutely classic Swedish LP. And I have chosen the song called Horgalåten, because that is a song that is based on an old Swedish like folk legend. And the story goes that in this village called Horga in Sweden, one night a mysterious fiddler came and he started to play. And all the villagers, they just started to dance, and they couldn't stop dancing when they heard his fiddle playing. Apparently, it was the devil that came in disguise, dressed up as a fiddler, and he started to play. And the only way you could tell that it was the devil is that you had to look at his feet, and you can see that there were these goat's cloves, or whatever you say, whatever you call it, I'm not sure. But anyway, he were playing, and they were dancing until their feet were bleeding, and they were dancing all night long until there were only their skulls left rolling around, and then they disappeared or so, I'm not sure. So during the midsummer dance, if a mysterious fiddler turn up, look at his feet and be careful. And it's also a really great track, fantastic guitar work. I guess it's based on an old melody because it has these really Nordic folk vibes, and I think it's one of the highlights on this LP. It was also released on Silence with these beautiful labels. Silence always had really cool label design on their early stuff, like often hand-drawn, handwritten labels. Very beautiful. For me, this is the perfect ending to a long midsummer night celebration here in Sweden. Listening to this old psychedelic folk rock from the early 70s and just dancing until the dawn. So, these were 6 records from my collection that really captures this whole Swedish midsummer trip. And now you know how to celebrate Swedish midsummer, and you know what to do when a mysterious fiddler turn up, or if you're coming to a party and there's a giant wicker statue there. So be careful. So whether you're celebrating midsummer here in Sweden, or if you're celebrating anywhere else in the world, I wish you the best midsummer, and I wish you a great summer. And I hope that you have liked this little musical journey. And please take care out there and be nice to each other and play music, and be sure to drink a schnapps to your midsummer dinner. Peace out.